channel. My name's Lucy from Made by Lucy, and I just want to hop on here and have a little chat with you all really. There's a few things I've been thinking about of late. I've been doing some sort of self-development for myself and my business, and a few things have sort of come up that I've been thinking about, and I thought that it'd be a really good subject to come on and share with you guys here and just get maybe some opinions from you guys and maybe start like a little not debate but a little conversation with what people think and how they feel. So this morning I was having a little scroll on Facebook like I do with my morning coffee. This is my second, actually it's green tea, I'm being very good. And I follow a few different sewing groups on there, and I have a little scroll through, and I quite often interact and answer questions and join in with sort of conversations that people are having. And one of the conversations that popped up this morning that prompted me to come on and want to speak to you guys was about sewing time, and some of the comments I was reading through made me feel a little bit like sewing felt stressful to some people, and it really got me thinking, you know, sewing has really evolved probably over the last 5 or 6 years or so, and the Great British Sewing Bees had a big influence on that, and mindfulness has had a big influence on that, and people wanting to get more creative and take time out for themselves. And I started or restarted sewing properly about nearly 7 years ago now, when I lost my mum. And for me, it was an escapism, and it was a chance to do something just for me and to really focus on that and focus on nothing else at that time. And that sort of progressed, and I really enjoyed that feeling that sewing gave me, and that's why I've continued and built a business on that, and that's where I am today. And there have been times, I won't lie, there have been times along that path that it has felt stressful. And there are times now when that feels stressful, but I'm really conscious of that because I don't want my sewing to move in that way, because to me it's my sort of passion and joy, and that's how I want to keep it and how I want it to make me feel. So these comments that I read this morning, so I think the lady was asking, how do people find time to sew? I'm a mum, I've got 2 young children, I work, you know, I can't find time to sew. How do you all do it? And we get caught up in seeing online all these glamorous pictures on Instagram, Facebook, social media, wherever it is, YouTube, of people doing all these amazing things, and you know, their lives look amazing and they're sewing incredible projects. You know, how do they do it and where do they find the time? And I think we've just got to sort of step back and remember that 1, everybody's lifestyle is different, and 2, it's not always what we think when we see these pictures. So they may have made a gorgeous dress that they're showing online, but that might have took them a year to complete. For all we know, we do not know. So I just wanted to sort of step back and think about this and how I handle the time situation and having the time to sew. Yes, and some of these comments from this lady's question were not negative, but I could feel the stresses of people like, yeah, I know, how do you find the time? I don't have time, and you know, how do people do it? And I'm up early hours of the morning sewing and things. I would be a zombie if I did that, to be fair. I would not, you know, cope with the next day if I was sewing at 1 o'clock in the morning. Some people are night owls, I know. So I just want to share a few things that I do to help me find time to do my sewing outside of my being a mum, being a wife, having a home, running a business full-time, how I make time to sew for me, and I just want to share them with you. So first of all, the main thing I do is I don't give myself too high expectations. So I make sure that when I choose a project, I'm not going to say I'm going to finish this project in a week, or I'm going to do this next weekend and it's going to be amazing, I'm going to wear it to this event coming up, or whatever it is. And it is good to set yourself goals and to push yourself, definitely, but don't set your expectations too high of yourself, because that's when we feel that it becomes maybe a bit stressful, or when we sort of look at ourselves and don't think we're doing a good job, or we're not achieving what we want to achieve. And even if that's just in a hobby, do you know what I mean, it can still give us those feelings. We have such high expectations of ourselves, particularly as women. I find we feel that maybe we should be able to do everything, and I think definitely now times are moving forward, which is great, because it's actually saying you don't have to do everything, and it's okay to have a break, and it's okay not to be able to be a superwoman all the time, or superman all the time. time. So one, I don't give myself or set myself too higher expectations. I choose projects, I sort of gauge my project and what I think I would enjoy doing, but also things that are going to suit my sewing, you know, what type of sewist I am. And I'm going to talk about this further actually. I'm going to do another video about this. What type of sewist are you? Because I actually think there's quite a few different types of sewist as well. So me personally, and I know this for a fact, I like to get things finished quite quickly. I like to see the end result. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel accomplished. It gives me pride. So I like quite quick jobs. So I bear this in mind now. I've learnt this about myself, and I bear this in mind when I'm choosing a project. So I try and choose projects that are fairly straightforward to make. Luckily, I'm quite a straightforward dressing kind of gal, so I like kind of relaxed clothes, so that helps, to be fair. I'm not a fussy, fancy sort of dresser. So I always try and pick projects that are fairly easy and quick to make for me. So I know that once that project's been cut out, it's not going to take me too long to then put that together. So that's the second thing I do. Thirdly, I try and schedule out time. This sounds really sort of organised, and I'm not mega organised, don't get me wrong, I am totally not if you know me. I'm a bit scatty at times, and I kind of just go by the fly of my pants. I definitely do, and yeah, all over the shop, very distracted. I think that's my creative side. But I do try and schedule out time. So I'll say to myself, right, on Sunday afternoon, I'm going to make sure I've got a couple of hours to come up to the studio or get my sewing machine out, and I'm going to sit down and do what I can in those 2 hours. So I'm not going to say I'm going to complete this project in these 2 hours, because I know that potentially is not going to happen. So I try and schedule time out. And do you know what? I was thinking about this also the other day. A friend of mine asked if I would like to go to a spa, and we've been trying to plan this for a little while, and I thought, you know, it's lovely, go to a spa to relax and take time out, which is exactly what sewing does for me when I get that chance to sew for myself. And when we do that type of activity, we arrange someone to, if we've got children, to babysit, or we schedule out and put in our diaries time to do that event, that thing that we want to enjoy. So for instance, a spa day, or get your hair cut, or whatever it is, we schedule time out for that. And for me, sewing is a nicety. It's something that makes me feel good, something that I enjoy, and yet we don't tend to schedule time out to do those types of leisure activity. Why not? Why not? Put in the comments if you feel the same. You know, have you ever scheduled out time to give yourself time to do your hobby, whether that be sewing or anything else? You know, have you arranged a babysitter for the morning? And we probably do that because we'd feel really guilty asking, you know, mum, could you have the kids for a couple of hours, or husband, while I do some sewing? They'd be like, what do you mean while you do some sewing? But so that's sort of been going through my head as well. Why don't we do that? Why do we always feel guilty about taking time out? So yes, so schedule time out if you can. If you can find someone to have the kids for a little while, then do that, you know. A great way to do that, a prime time to do that, is if you've got younger kids. Mine are growing out of this slightly now. Children's birthday parties. Try and get someone to take your child to the birthday party. You've got 2 hours then pretty much before you have to pick them up that you could do some sewing. Do you know what I mean? Take times, take the opportunity to take those times when you can. So yeah, that was my third thing. So schedule things out, put it on the calendar, put it in your diary, put it on your Google notifications on your phone to remind you, and get it in your mind that time is for you and you're going to do some sewing. I feel really passionate about this at the moment. I just want people to really find the joy and passion in their sewing, and I know that I can find it hard sometimes to make time for me-made sewing because I do a lot of sewing in my business, and yeah, I want it to stay joyful and people to stay passionate and not be disheartened. So yeah, definitely schedule out some time. That's a third. And then fourth, also break down your project. So a great thing to do is to break your project down. So say you want to make a cushion, you could break it down into 3 sections, for instance. So the first section might be that you might go shopping to buy some fabric, or you might spend a couple of hours online browsing through fabric shops, getting what you need. The second thing, you might cut out your fabrics ready to go. And the third section might be that you're going to sit down and sew your project. And the same if you're making a dress, for instance. You might source out your pattern and your fabrics first of all, because that can actually take a little while to get that right, to choose them. You might then take an evening to sit down and cut out your pattern. Again, that's quite a lengthy process when you're dressmaking. And third, you might then start to sew your project, and that may take a few more sessions if you're making, you know, an outfit or something. So break your project down and know what you're doing when you've got that scheduled time. So that's definitely that's my fourth sort of big tip, really. And 5 is don't lose the enjoyment. So as soon as it starts to feel stressful, as soon as something maybe goes wrong, maybe just take that as a key that you need a break. You've been sewing way too long. I find this when I'm sewing for my Etsy shop. I make handmade gifts. And sometimes, you know, it's really busy and I've got to get the orders done, but sometimes I could be sewing and I cram in a few extra hours of the evening, for instance, and then my bobbin keeps catching, or my thread snaps, or my needle breaks, and I think, do you know what? I think it's time to put the sewing machine to bed and have a break. So again, the same with your me-made sewing, you know, recognise when maybe it's time to stop and don't go any further. Put it away and then come back to it another time. Schedule another, you know, snippet of time out that you can come back to it. But yeah, I'd love to find out what people feel. So do you find that you easily make the time to sew? Do you, sometimes do you feel that it's stressful? Sometimes do you feel it's hard to make the time to sew? Do you look on social media and sort of think, how are other people doing this? How are they fitting in all these incredible projects? Let me know in the comments. I'd really like to start a bit of a discussion about what people think and feel, and is sewing still bringing you the joy and passion you found when you first started? And if you're new to sewing, if you're just starting, you know, how are you going to make sure that your sewing journey doesn't turn into something that's a chore and you lose the enjoyment a little bit, rather than, you know, experimenting, enjoyment of the fabrics, the sewing process. And in a lot of my past videos in my social sewing community group and on my trainings and things I talk about the process, and it's not about necessarily the finished product, but it's actually about the process of sewing, each step of sewing, and the enjoyment of you know, taking the time out, focusing on something in itself, in a wholity. So just focusing on that one thing for a length of time and nothing else around you. And that's kind of where the mindfulness of sewing comes in. And I know certainly for me, that's a big thing for me in my sewing. Was the time, the escapism I call it, that I could sit down, just focus on my sewing machine and nothing else. So let me know. I'm going to put all these questions in the comments below, but I'd really like to find out from you guys how you're feeling as well. And I'm going to sort of do a few more little videos about this, because there's a few things that have come up for me recently. I'm coming into my busiest period in my handmade store as well. So I know for me, my me-made side is going to become harder to achieve in these last sort of quarter of the year. But I'd love to know from you as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this little discussion, this little debate, sewing debate, and I'd love to know your opinions below, so pop them in the comments. And yeah, I'm going to come on and do some more of these, definitely. So let me know, give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it and want to hear more, and hopefully we can spark up some conversations. But until the next time, hope you've enjoyed that, and I can't wait to read all your comments, and I'll see you soon. Bye!